Forget the past and put yourself in the pole position to take down your league mates this season with our 2025 Fantasy Football Draft redo and rest of season rankings. All this and more. It's the IBT podcast coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy, call him Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome into the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. We're officially 1 month through the professional football season, which means it's time to take stock of the movement. That's right, we'll break down it all with our fantasy draft redo. Plus, we've got our top waivers, a week early stashes, and best bets for week 5. I'm your host, Seth Wilcock, coming off my best fantasy week of the season. So cheers to that. And today I'm joined by both your and my friends, including a man who is seeing the field pretty well when it comes to the gambling streets. He's our NFL and entertainment betting expert here at IBT. He's Boston's boy, Steven Lawson. Steve, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. I am rolling in the dough that I made this weekend on the NFL betting market. I was red hot, and I know we'll get into that later on in the show. So stick around, and maybe I'll give you guys some advice on how to cash in.
Yeah, I could certainly use it. It was not a great gambling week. I love how, good gambling weeks for the first few weeks, bad fantasy week, and then everything kind of flipped on its head here in week number 4. But excited to have you locked and loaded here, Steve, either way. And we're also joined by a big business, light ranch and son of a gun. He's Eric Romoff. Eric, how are you as the calendar starts to flip to October and spooky season?
Man, I love some spooky season around here, so can't wait for that to get into the full swing. But it also means the spookiest of the seasons in the fantasy and NFL context. That is, the bye weeks are finally here. The week 5 bye is such a cop-out. I can't believe there's teams that are already getting a bye week, and we're obviously having to deal with the ramifications on our fantasy rosters.
They come quick, man. They come quick. Just like life hits you, right after graduating high school or college, whatever it may be. All of a sudden, you get 4 weeks, 4 years into this thing, whatever you want to say, and then it just, becomes a little bit more difficult to figure things out. But that's why we're here, and that's why the IBT family's also rocking and rolling with us. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in on the YouTube side of things or the audio feature of the program as well. We appreciate you. We see you. Please do us a quick favor. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also, if you want more of us, consider joining the IBT football family. That is our premium community that you get access to our full betting cards, our Discord chat, memorabilia giveaways, and entry into our TD contest, which we'll be giving out our picks later on in the show. You can still get in there. It's not too late. We might even give you a couple freebies to help you catch up and get access to that sweet, sweet, sweet Dynasty Decks plaque for your winning. And this is all just $3.99 per month or just $36 for the year. You're also going to get access to the NASCAR family, our sports betting model over there, and more sports also coming on the way for you. The link to that is in the episode description. And also, gentlemen, very, very excited to announce our new presenting sponsor of this week's program is PropDecks, a platform that is reimagining fantasy sports with prop-based lineups. That's right. Just set your lineups by choosing players from a live pool. No drafts or no season-long commitments. Next, just pick your props, ranging from safe to bold by selecting presets or customizing your picks for maximum points and control. The harder the prop, the more fantasy points you can actually earn. Then just sit back and let your fantasy players do the work and watch your points totals climb. You can play for free right now on PropDecks. You can enter their tournaments where you can win gift cards to major apparel brands, custom merch, or more. or you can jump into community-hosted games with friends, private groups, or other online players. Stack your props, score big, and own Sundays now by downloading the PropDecks app today from iOS on the App Store. The link to this is in the episode description, of course, as well. And guys, bad news on the PropDecks front. I hate to say it, but we entered their industry league tournament this past week. We were competing for $500 to split between the company and also one IBT family member. I got us knocked down in the first round. I had all the right players. I had the Jake Ferguson. I had the Ashton Genty. I had Jalen Hurts. I just got a little aggressive. You can combo some of those props up. I went for a couple parlays, had, the receiving yards on Ashton Genty, not the rushing yards. So tough swing and a miss here from our friends at PropDeck, Eric. But I know you've talked with Cedric and Austin, the boys over there, and it's a really cool product and really have to be featuring them here on the program this week.
Man, that's a tough scene. That's a tough way to start out with our new partners over at PropDecks, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity to get back in there and for us to mix it up over the course of the season. The thing that I love about the format is really twofold, right? You have that sliding scale where you can go with some pretty safe bets, or if you have a read on a guy, if you know that his matchup is stellar, if you have a sense that he's going to go through the roof, you can weight your picks and really put it all on the table in order to rack up some extra points, right? So it's not just as simple as, oh, there's a line, I'm higher or lower than that line. If you've got the inside track on something, you can really spin it up to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, again, that is PropDecks. You can check them out on the Apple Store, or you can also just click the link in this episode description and check them out. So excited to be working with them. They're a couple of great guys with a great product, and going to be very, very excited to continue playing and hopefully get a little better at it. Because it is a different spin on fantasy. So excited for that. And guys, let's go ahead. Steve, what do you say we jump right into things, man?
Yeah, and I think maybe you should talk to someone who's a high-ranking Scott Fishbowl player next time you're gonna start playing some fantasy. But let's do it.
Yeah. Take your victory laps now, and we'll see where we are wrong and right when we get to our first round redraft here in front and center.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between. I thought you'd come to the place you can have some fun. Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. You can come and give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
It's front and center. It's our first round redraft where we ranked separately our top 15 for the rest of season, full PPR 12-team redrafts, and we are drafting today right now based off our consensus rankings. Again, we were all kind of behind closed doors here. We came together, we put a consensus together, and we'll go through this draft as a unit. So very, very excited to get to this. And shout out to a couple of our IBT family members checking in right now in the chat as well. Looks like we have Albert. What's up, Albert? Great to see you. And Ben giving us the wave as always as well. And Rachel asking a couple questions here. Rachel, we'll get to your questions right towards the end of the program as we move throughout it. But anyone else who has a fantasy football question or NFL gambling question that we can help you with, please don't be shy. Drop those
or a life
below.
question even. We're happy to have those too.
Yeah, we can. Absolutely. Steve, what do you put in your hair? I think that's the first question I have for you tonight.
Nothing.
You tell me that's all natural all the time, huh?
This is absolutely natural. This is absolutely natural. This is water.
He's going to start off a brand new show lying to the people.
I have nothing in my hair tonight. There's no product in this.
All right. Well, okay. Well, good.
Sometimes
advice.
I will put stuff. I won't lie. I will put stuff in it sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll put Suavecito hair gel in, but tonight it is nothing.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the authenticity there. And guys, let's go ahead and get into our redraft rankings here. And things have certainly changed in a hurry in the fantasy landscape, and it starts at the top here with Puka Nacua. He is currently up 9 spots from his preseason ECR, where he was 10th overall. He is now number 1 overall, and it was consensus 1 overall from us. He has been exceptional, Eric. He is averaging right now over 27 fantasy points per game. It's almost like the vintage Cooper Kupp type of season that we're getting here from Puka. That being said, there are still some risks we should certainly chat about. One being the age, the back injury to Matthew Stafford. Puka has not been a spring chicken himself either. That said, it's really been good times and good times only if you're a Puka Nacua manager, Eric.
Yeah, it has. I am not necessarily worried about Puka Nacua's age at the ripe old age of 23 and a half or so. At least for me, a lot of what dragged down Puka Nacua's ranking heading into the season were those questions about Matt Stafford and his back injury. And through 4 weeks, he certainly doesn't seem to have any issue distributing the ball to really just 2 pass catchers, those being Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Puka Nacua currently sitting with a 38% target share in this highly consolidated offense. So obviously he's sitting as the wide receiver 1 and sitting as the number 1 player off the board in our redraft ranks.
Steve, it was one of those situations where I have a little bit of the egg on my face because I had Puka as a top 5 player. And then as we continued to get it closer here, I started dropping him, right? I put some guys like BTJ above him. I put some other receivers that I have a big regret, filled in my heart with now. Were you kind of the same, or did you always kind of remain steadfast on Puka coming into the season and have those, issues that we've talked about kind of been alleviated over the first couple weeks, or do they remain steadfast for you?
I started really high on him, and then I did fade. I came back right before the season, like the drafts really started. So I kind of got back in. I had him as my wide receiver 2 coming into the season. So it wound up working out. But I'm not worried about Matt Stafford. Like I said, a few shows like before the season, it started to look a lot like coach speak. He's just old. It's like when, Tim Duncan had to sit out that game for the Spurs and Greg Popovich just said old. Like it was maintenance, and they fooled us, right? Like in Sean McVay, known liar, when it comes to players and stuff like that. You can't trust what he says, but it turns out it was a big fat nothing burger. So Puka it's better than that vintage Cup season. It's better than anything we've seen essentially ever at the wide receiver position so far.
Yeah, and let's go drop 1 spot below him, and it was Bijan Robinson, who he was right there around that 102 pick in ECR. We actually had him 104 coming over there from our friends Fantasy Pros, and we right now gave him an IBT ADP of 2.3. So most of us had him right around that 2-3 mark, and Bijan's been sensational. RB4 currently on the season. So consistent, getting the pass catching usage we want. And even in those games where the Atlanta offense has struggled, Steve, Bijan has not disappointed yet.
No, he's been electric in every sense of the word, and has really, really shined as a pass catcher. I still worry about the breakaway speed of Bijan Robinson. He does get caught quite a bit from behind, but he's so electric in that second level before, like at the linebacker level. He's so slippery. It hasn't mattered at all. He's one of the most fun guys to watch in the league at this point.
And Eric, if I'm correct as well, I believe you were actually 1 spot lower on Bijan than Steve and I. So what was with the, discrepancy from 2 to 3 for you? Is there something, was it just you liking another player that we'll talk about more later? Or are there some concerns? I mean, the snap share isn't the highest among running backs. It is ninth, but he is second in weighted opportunities because of that pass catching work. He's kind of making up some of the difference that he isn't always seeing on the ground.
Yeah, I wish I could point to any of those things. Really, it's just picking nits, right? I've got him at 3, whereas everyone else had him at 2. So he is my highest ranked running back. I actually wavered on that decision a fair amount because I think that he's justifiable as the 102 here. The thing that broke the tie for me is we had a lot of running backs move their way up the board, and I felt like there was kind of a tier break at the position, at the wide receiver position, that boosted another player ahead of Bijan Robinson for me.
Yeah, it's been interesting for Bijan because right now he is number 3 in shotgun carry rate, but number 32 against stacked front carry rate as well. So Steve, despite what we think about these pass catchers on their own, teams are definitely respecting Michael Penix Jr.'s big arm, Drake London, Darnell Mooney down the field, and even Kyle Pitts opening things up really for Bijan to just not see a lot of defenders in the box right now.
Yeah, because they're running a spread, right? They're really spreading out the defense, making sure that no one can sit there
Mm-hmm.
and just key in on Bijan Robinson. They are saying, we are going in the shotgun a lot, and we're taking deep shots. It's not just, we're not underneathing you to death. We're going downfield. If you don't play that, you're toast, right? You can't sell out for the run. Even though Penix isn't accurate, it only takes one accurate pass to screw up your day.
Yeah. Albert here saying no Omarion Hampton in the first round. Listen, man, we only did top 12 here, but we will throw out a couple of our honorable mentions, and Omarion just out of the top 12 here, but don't want to play spoiler too much here. So let's get to the next player on the board here, and it is Christian McCaffrey coming in at 3 overall, 10 spots above his early ECR ranking in August there. 3.7 in our IBT ADP, Eric. And this has been something with CMC. I think the risk is still very much there. We had a scare pre-week 1. Everyone was going to the waiver wire, making sure that Bijan Robinson Jr. was added, making sure Isaac Guerrero was added. And that's still the risk here, right, for CMC. But it's almost like one of those situations. I forget who. I think it was our friend Chris Welsh who put out on Twitter, like, CMC has effectively done like the Scarlet Witch, where he's like zapped all the power from those around him. Everyone else is hurt on the 49ers but him. So do you like him at 3, or do you still have those concerns too about McCaffrey?
Yeah, I have those exact same concerns. It's why I've actually got Christian McCaffrey down at my number 5 player, right? Obviously, you've got to give the guy his just due for what he's been able to put out on the field through the first 4 weeks of the season. 24 fantasy points per game.
Yeah.
Essentially not just leading, but lapping the field on all of the opportunity metrics and a lot of the efficiency metrics out there, right? So we knew if he was going to be out there, he was going to be a big focal point of this offense, and that very much so holds true through 4 weeks. But it's the first 4 weeks of the season, and I still have some lingering concern considering that this is a rest of season redraft, right? I don't think that a body like his that has seen the workload that he has will hold up over the course of 17 games, right? So because of that, I've got him down a couple of spots, but the start to the season for him has been simply electric.
Steve, if you could sell Christian McCaffrey high right now for maybe one of these other running backs we're going to mention in this first round plus something, would you consider that? Or is it, hey, I'm here to win this thing. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt, but I'm not taking second this season?
Yeah, I'd sell him high. If I could get another one of these running backs plus something like startable, like another flex spot, yeah, I'm doing that 100%.
Okay, let's get to our next player here. It is Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. He's up 3 spots from his preseason ECR, a 4.0 IBT ADP. And listen, guys, this is one of my biggest whiffs of the offseason. I had Amon-Ra St. Brown outside my top 15 overall players. I had him right around wide receiver 10 coming into the season. And I was concerned about a few things. One, we saw Jameson Williams' target share go up last season. We also saw a early third-round pick used on Isaac Tesla and some draft capital traded to get him. And we had Ben Johnson out of this offense. But it doesn't seem like it has slowed down Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slightest, Eric. He has been sensational. You actually had him at 2 overall. So right now, if we were redrafting today, if you couldn't get Puka Nacua, it seems like you would be taking Amon-Ra St. Brown.
The sun god.
I would, definitively. And much like you, he is one of my biggest risers overall because I had the exact same question marks heading into the season that you did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, it's not necessarily the case that every question mark is going to break on the negative side, but having those questions will pull a guy down the draft board. And now with a 4-week sample size, we can say definitively that Amon-Ra St. Brown is still a huge focal point in this offense. He's among the leaders in the league in red zone target share, in first read target share.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I was not accounting for, Jared Goff is throwing the ball in the red zone and to the end zone far more frequently than he has in years past. And that has Amon-Ra St. Brown already at 6 receiving touchdowns. So all of the open questions have been answered in a largely positive way for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And like I mentioned before, he's really kind of the last stop of that elite tier of wide receivers, and why I have him all the way up at number 2 in my ranks.
Steve, is this something that you're expecting maybe some negative touchdown regression to hit the Sun God here? Because his career high is 12 passing touchdowns. He is half of that metric right now through the first 4 games of the season.
I mean, yeah, I don't expect him to break Randy Moss's record, right? Like, I'd be surprised if he did that. Because that's what he's pacing right now. It's 1.5 touchdowns. He's on pace for what, 25 then? That's a lot. So yeah, it will slow down. I'd see him at 15, 16 touchdowns this season, potentially, which is a ton. But it seems like that's their red zone weapon, right? They are throwing to him in the end zone. So he could have a monster year. He already has 6. So I'm not going to sit here and say like he'll score none and only have 6, but he's the only beneficiary, it seems, which is a weird thing to say, from Ben Johnson leaving.
Yeah, and also kind of a beneficiary has been Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe not because of the change in offense, but more than anything, it seems like that he is getting this early down work, right? Before, we'd always see David Montgomery almost take the entire first series at times, but it's been Jahmyr Gibbs out with the starters. He does come off the field some still, Eric, but Gibbs has been sensational this year. He's been everything you've wanted, and that's why he's only currently 1 spot above where he was going in drafts. But what's your thought on what we've seen from Jahmyr Gibbs in this new look Lions offense as well?
I'm a bit cautious about Jahmyr Gibbs still to this point. He was a player that I was a bit lower on heading into the season, and I think that he is appropriately ranked in this redo. I'm 1 spot lower than him on where we are in consensus. The biggest thing for me with Gibbs is just that opportunity share, right? Even though he is seeing more early down work, even though he's not, holding his helmet for the entire first drive or 2 of a game,
Right.
He's only at a 59% opportunity share, right? Like David Montgomery is still a legitimate point of emphasis in this offense. And for Jahmyr Gibbs to hit those otherworldly heights that he closed the end of last season with, it was all with David Montgomery on the bench, right? So he's an electric player. He obviously has the ability to gash you on a per touch basis, but I really wanted to see him north of 65, 70% opportunity share before I really moved him into that upper echelon. And through 4 games, I haven't seen that yet.
Steve, I totally understand where Eric's coming from, but there's the other side of this too, where yes, he's not on the field all the time, but he's second right now among running backs in receptions. Again, a ton of those came in week 1, but also second in expected fantasy points per game. So it's a different usage than what we traditionally were used to for workhorse running backs, but it's still a really nice workload that he's getting.
It is a really nice workload. It got weirdly skewed last week, like this past week, where Montgomery got very little going on the ground, and Gibbs was obviously still red hot. But the passing game work is there, right? And he's getting, a decent share of that. I like what Gibbs is doing. I think the rest of the season, this is where he should be. It's a product of his position, right? Like running back is still an incredibly thin position. And as Eric said with Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's a significant tier break after him at the wide receiver position. So
you can see it on our rankings.
Yeah, and it's just going to drive up the running back price. So give me Jahmyr Gibbs here, and I'm pretty happy with it overall.
At 6 overall, we have Jonathan Taylor. He is up 23 spots from his preseason ADP or ECR, IBT ADP of 7.0 currently. This is another one of those whiffs I had, guys, and I think part of it was I was just not expecting the receiving volume to come back for Jonathan Taylor. It's been pretty much non-existent the past 2 seasons under Shane Steichen. Part of that was definitely probably Anthony Richardson having a role in that, Steve, but with not only the receiving game coming back to JT, but also some of that explosiveness as well, with kind of redoing the interior of their offensive line. It's been great for JT all the way around.
It has, and I ranked him high in my redraft as well, but I do want to put out a word of caution.
Okay.
Because it seems like Daniel Jones is coming back to earth quite a bit here. The last 2 weeks, he's regressed, and then he regressed again. and I fear he may be turning into a pumpkin. So if Daniel Jones turns into a pumpkin, that's going to be really, really bad for Jonathan Taylor, because that would probably spell Anthony Richardson coming back into the starting QB mix.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, his stat line would be a lot better if
unless Cincinnati comes calling for Anthony Richardson.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting, and one of those situations where if AD Mitchell holds on to the ball, he adds another touchdown to his resume last week. So I don't think the stats look as bad. But Eric, this is still a guy in JT averaging over 100 yards rushing per game, number one in rushing yards among running backs in that metric, and then also top 10 in receptions too. So that's been the big thing. I just was not expecting for JT, top 3 in expected fantasy points per game, as opposed to, last few seasons where he's been around 10 to 15 in that metric.
Yeah, his role as a pass catcher, I feel has largely been kind of underutilized throughout his career, and we're seeing the true upside that's unlocked there. Right, we mentioned some of his receiving stats, but also number one among running backs in route participation, running a route on almost 90% of dropbacks. So this is a focal point for him in terms of the way that they're using him, and arguably the biggest surprise is the one that Steve alluded to: Daniel Jones all of a sudden being able to run even a competent offense for Jonathan Taylor out there is a significant step forward, right? So I'm closer to his side of the spectrum, that I think Daniel Jones probably shows us a bit more of what got him sent out of New York than what he's
he may show us a bit more of his rump,
4 weeks,
if you will.
That's why I was a little bit lower on JT than you guys when we did this exercise.
Yeah, but even with that, right? Like last week was the worst of his games, right? 2 interceptions, didn't do anything rushing, this being Daniel Jones. And still we're looking at Jonathan Taylor being an elite option, and this offense still being just capable. Like, they don't need to be high flying or electric for Jonathan Taylor to get his, right? It's just as long as it's not a liability out there. And I think that's pretty close to Danny Dimes or Indiana Jones's new floor, right? I don't think the bottom completely falls out for him.
Next up, let's go to Devon Achane. He's coming in at 7 overall, 10 spots up from his preseason ECR. He is right now our IBT ADP of 8.30. And Eric, I want to talk about, now that we also have another layer to this, and why I think all of us in part put Devon Achane up this high. Not only has he been sensational this season, but now we have a Tyreek Hill injury that he is likely going to be out for the rest of the season, potentially opening even more doors to Achane still having a lot of upside in the passing game. And let's all be honest too, the Dolphins defense hasn't been bad, and when they have been trailing in games prior to week 4, he's been Tua's arguably most trusted target.
Yeah, that's really what vaults him up here for me, and it really has to do a lot with the optionality that you get with Devon Achane. His role in this offense is significant and expansive, right? Every year we're kind of wondering if Ollie Gordon or Wright is going to chip away at some of that workload, and generally speaking, it's not. It is Devon Achane with number one with a bullet, and now we're starting to see a number of different ways that he can contribute as a fantasy asset, right? Even going back to the week 4 game, wasn't nearly as involved as a pass catcher as we would have expected, right? 2 targets coming off of games prior to that where he saw 9 targets and 10 targets, but was still able to push for over 100 scrimmage yards and found the end zone. So I think we can see plenty of games like that, but moreover, I think we're going to see a lot of games where he is the second receiving option in the Dolphins passing game. And that just creates a beautiful floor for him. And obviously he's electric enough to where he can take any of those touches for a big play.
Steve, obviously one of the reasons Achane got pushed into the second round by the time we got to August was that injury, right? So is that something you've kind of put aside as well? He's worked through it. We haven't had any concerns since week 1 and when he was on the injury report.
I had already put it aside. He came into the season ranked as my 3rd running back going in.
Okay.
So I grabbed him as a 1st-round pick and everywhere I could. In my home league, I drafted him. I had the 9 spot, and I drafted him there. Weirdly enough, ahead of Puka, who I wound up taking on the turn. So
wow.
And with this Tyreek Hill injury, it is going to logically, it should serve Jalen Waddle better, it's probably going to serve Devon Achane better. And game script is not going to go the way that this week went for most Dolphins games. They're not going to be up by so much that they're running the clock out and Achane's taking 18 carries for 100 yards, right? He's going to get a lot more targets, a lot more catches, a lot more in space stuff. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if rest of season this is the RB1.
Yeah, I think it's definitely within the cards, and I think he's appropriately ranked just because, Dolphins not the team I think everyone necessarily wants to be invested in, but if you are invested in them, I think it is here with Devon Achane.
He also hasn't hit that home run yet. So he's doing
Yeah,
all of this
true.
without doing the thing that he's best at, which is like
Great
busting
point.
that 50-yarder.
Yeah, that's what he came to be known for a few seasons ago, and he popped up in his debut and had over 30 fantasy points. So next up here, let's go to 8 overall, where we have James Cook of the Buffalo Bills up 34 spots from his preseason ECR. We currently gave him an IBT ADP of 10 flat, and guys, it's been sensational. But part of this is touchdowns, right? And what we thought, I think that's why we all had him where we did in the rankings coming into the season, right? Because he can't keep us up. He can't keep, touchdown regression's coming for him. Well, he has 5 through 4 games here, and he is currently RB2 on the season, Steven.
Yeah, and I don't know if touchdown regression's necessarily coming for James Cook because the opportunity isn't going to slow down, and that Bills offense is as explosive as ever. And they really like to give this guy work, and he is doing the most with his opportunities as he can. He is looking explosive. He's busting off big runs, breaking tackles. The offensive line looks phenomenal right now for Buffalo in that run game. And then on the outsides, you got to give some love to the wide receivers out there that are blocking like incredibly well. And Joe Brady, for my money, maybe the best offensive coordinator in the league right now, and is not getting the love that I think he deserves. He should probably get some head coaching looks this next cycle. And it's just been absolutely phenomenal to watch. And I'm really, really happy for James Cook and what he's been able to do here.
Eric, what holes can you poke here for me? Because Buffalo currently the leading team in team run plays per game. They play at a bit of a faster pace than some other programs out there. Number 4 in carries, top 5 in red zone touches. He's, of course, leading the position at touchdowns, 2nd in rushing yards. And the efficiency hasn't been bad either, right? Explosive rating, as Steve said, 5th right now as well. So yards per touch, 10th. So, he has everything. What can take him down here, you think?
I wouldn't say that he has anything by a long shot. I am the lowest on James Cook amongst our rankers. I had him all the way down at number 15.
Oh, wow.
So still technically on the board. Look, the touchdown regression is really the point to make. Granted, he is wiping my nose in it through 4 weeks, but I still think that is a highly variant type of outcome. And more specifically, it's in the context of his opportunity, right? He's sitting out here with a 58% snap share. If this was a guy who was on the field for 70, 75, 80% of snaps in an offense this electric, I would feel very comfortable saying that he can sustain this type of touchdown rate. But now we're talking about a guy that's barely on the field for half of snaps. And it seems mathematically like his opportunity to score touchdowns is not nearly as high as his touchdown productivity might lead you to believe. So it is. I don't mean to take anything away from what we've seen from James Cook so far. It's been a dynamic start to the season, and he very much so has earned his flowers. But a guy that's this touchdown dependent, specifically a guy that is not all that involved as a pass catcher, he's ranked 20th in target share. There are a lot of like Derrick Henry downside games where if he doesn't get in the end zone, all of a sudden he's scoring you 7 points. Right? He's plenty involved. He's going to see a lot of touches, but he really needs that score in order to produce these top 10, top 5 fantasy outcomes. And because of that, I have a hard time ranking him inside the top 5 of the position.
Fair. Next up at number 9, we have Justin Jefferson, who has actually fallen since our preseason ADP and ECR was ranked. We have him down at 9-10 in the ADP as well. And Eric, what are your thoughts here on Justin Jefferson? Is he someone you still are believing in, someone you still think is after obviously Amon-Ra and Puka. He's kind of the head of that next tier, if you would. But he did look better over in Dublin here in week 4. But part of that is Carson Wentz is at quarterback. Do you think that sustains when JJ McCarthy ultimately takes back over the reins there in this KOC offense?
I do. I think that we collectively have given up on JJ McCarthy way too fast.
Agreed.
Kid essentially
fair,
played 2 games and all of a sudden.
I never believed in him to start with.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think he should have been a first rounder, right? But I also don't think that he's quite as bad, or any rookie quarterback is quite as bad as they show in their first 2 NFL starts, right? I believe that he is likely to be better than Carson Wentz is really the overarching point. And with Carson Wentz out there, we see Justin Jefferson go and post a 23 fantasy point day, right? So the thing that I like about him, he's very clearly outside of that top tier. He's on the other side of the tier break. But I like that even when it's bad, he's still getting you 12, 14, 15 fantasy points, and obviously has the upside to break off for, 20, 25 plus. So, he very much so is a buy low candidate for me. Whether it's Carson Wentz getting increasingly acclimated to this KOC system, or JJ McCarthy coming back and showing some of that spark that earned him that early first round draft capital. I think the baseline is pretty stable, and obviously the upside is otherworldly with a player as talented as Jefferson.
Yeah, I would like to see the opportunity improve just a little bit. I think, outside of the top 30 in deep targets, down outside of the top 15 in targets as a whole, air yards are down. But look, I mean, still, when you look at dominator rating, when you look at yards per team pass attempt, he's number 3. I mean, he has been, yards per route run. I know that's a big efficiency metric that people pull from as well. He's 4th. So he's doing everything with the opportunity. We just want to see that opportunity maybe increase just a little bit as we continue to move throughout the season. And I think this is one thing that we could have expected with new quarterback play coming in. They're still trying to get, this ground game under control as well, with now Jordan Mason leading the way. So excited to see what Jay Jettas can do the rest of the way. And I want to go to our next player as well here, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, coming in at 10 overall. Eric, you and I very high on him. Steve, you not as much. I think with Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Eric, that really this is kind of, I think, we're at the ceiling, right? I don't know if we can get much higher than that. That said, is it time to sell high with him being seen as a first round pick, not only by us rankers, but many out there in the fantasy community as a whole?
To your latter question, probably. Look, he's being ranked as the 3rd or 4th receiver, not only rest of season, but, week over week. And it's just really hard to sustain that type of productivity over the course of 17 games, right? So if you have someone that's willing to make a Godfather offer for you, I think you should certainly listen to it. If you don't get that Godfather offer, I think you're going to be plenty happy hanging on to JSN for the duration, right? We've obviously discussed this point ad nauseum, but he was doing it by way of insane volume through the first 3 weeks of the season. That volume has now come back to earth. His target share is all the way down to 35%, which is number 3 in the league.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see some of that wobbliness in the scatter plots, right? He found his way into the end zone in the game where he didn't have a crazy workload, right? Even in his quote unquote down games, he's still getting you 13 or so points. So I think that is very much so the making of that kind of second tier wide receiver, a dude that can go out and get you 12 to 15 pretty regularly, but also has 22 plus in his locker. And this is all happening without Sam Darnold having to set the world on fire, right? He's out there kind of managing games and is able to support this type of productivity from JSN. So I love him sitting as my wide receiver 4 and landing where he did on the consensus.
Steve, the reason I love JSN is there's just so many different ways that they're now using him in his 3rd season in this Clint Kubiak-led offense. Number 4 in deep target share rate. Also a 40.8% first read target share. That's 8th among the position. And you start looking at some of these efficiency metrics as well. Number 1 in explosive rating. Also, you look at yards per route run. He's number 1. I mean, he has been sensational. But, Steve, you don't believe in him so much that you had him outside your top 15 rest of season redraft rankings.
Yeah, and like before the pitchforks and torches come out, like just give me a second to explain to everybody on the internet. Um, when you watch that Cardinals game, it became
Get
very
him.
glaringly
Oh, sorry.
obvious. It became glaringly obvious that JSN is kind of the whole offense, right? So it's turned into like if you can bracket him, you can really alter this offense in a way that is really detrimental. And he was essentially one like two kick landing 2 yards too short from having a really bad game. And it looked worse than it ended up being. And it worried me. And I was already worried coming in that his efficiency wouldn't last because he's having to maintain being number one in all of these metrics that very rarely is someone number one across the board unless they're like a Jamar Chase level talent, which I do not believe JSN is. Plus,
I think
he's attached to Sam Darnold, right? Like there is something to that. Now, I do want to throw a word of caution that the number one receiver, one of the top receivers in the league last year, was in a Clint Kubiak system, and it was Rashid Shaheed. Okay? So everyone just settle down for a second. The reason why
through the first couple weeks of the season,
through the first couple of weeks of the season, until defenses figured it out, and all of a sudden Rashid Shaheed turned into a pumpkin. Okay, these deep ball things. This is Clint Kubiak style, right? He loves these deep balls, but once you start seeing that too high safety really being played a lot, it's going to start limiting what JSN can do. You're going to start seeing him fitting more into that possession receiver role, I think, this year going forward. You're going to see a lot more games like the Cardinals than you do against like what he did with the 49ers.
He is in that possession receiver role. He's getting these designed first look reads, right?
But a lot of them are very like he is taking the top off the defense quite a bit. And he was early in the year. And that's where a lot of his mega games were coming from. Was this like
the Rashid Shaheed comp is that's crazy behavior.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I mean,
even if
I'm not saying they're on the same
JSN
level. What I'm saying is that we all jumped on Rashid Shaheed like, oh my god, this is the guy.
No, we did not.
And when it happens,
I don't know who this we is.
With the fantasy community, when this happens, I just don't want everyone to like go and give that Godfather offer for JSN right now. Slow down.
This is a fair point, right? Generally speaking, going and making a Godfather offer on any player is not going to end well for you. So I would echo that sentiment with Steve. And the biggest hole to poke in the entire case for JSN, from my vantage point, is he is attached to Sam Darnold, who, to his credit, has been managing games very effectively. But if I had to place a percentage likelihood on whether or not he sustains this or turns back into Sam Darnold, it's probably more likely he turns back into Sam Darnold. But all of that is to say, where we diverge is I think that JSN has the talent to at least provide a productive floor if those downside circumstances come to pass.
He could.
Yeah, I started to think about it, and when he was in college, I mean, there were times where he very much outproduced the likes of Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave sharing the field with them. And it's no surprise to me, honestly, seeing him outproduce them here in the NFL as well. Like, I think if we're drafting Ohio State wide receivers in the professional level of football, JSN is the top of that list, which is crazy when you consider we got Emeka, we got Marv, we got, Wilson. We have so many different guys, Olave. So I'm all in on JSN. Do I think maybe this is a sell high window? Sure. But am I going to do it? No way in heck. Let's keep it moving here. Next up at 11, we have Saquon Barkley, boys. Saquon fell 2 spots in ECR. And also, if you look at, your basic redraft ADP, he's fallen a lot here as well, because Fantasy Pros was kind of ahead of this, that we all kind of believe that, hey, if, he's coming off a season with 500 plus touches, maybe there's some regression coming. You never want to forecast injury, but that could be on the table too. And it's just been a little bit more of a stagnant offensive approach here from the Eagles, Steven. And I think, you aren't disappointed if you drafted Saquon Barkley, but we also haven't had any of those big explosive games with big gaping holes yet.
Yeah. This is definitely a case of someone who he needs the bye week, maybe more than anybody in the league right now, other than Chris Godwin. Like, he needs a week of rest where he was coming off a dummy number of touches this past season. I figured he would start slow. It was something that we all were worried about. Is he going to look tired? Frankly, the whole Eagles offense looks tired. It kind of just looks slow. They're playing at a really slow pace. That's a little worrisome. I'm definitely concerned, but I do expect Saquon to turn it up. It just looks like he's not as explosive right now, and I think a good bye week is going to really do a lot of wonders for him. And when he comes off of that, I think he's going to be a monster.
Eric, where are you at on Saquon currently right now? Outside the top 12 of running backs are right at RB12, 15.7 points per game. So definitely, as Steve mentioned, not the explosivity we've wanted, but the volume's been there every single week. I mean, the guy's seeing consistently over 20 touches, bar none.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough scene for Saquon Barkley. I think the overarching point that Steve made that I'll underscore is really just the state of the Eagles offense right now under Kevin Patullo. We've responded to calls for panic on individual players seemingly every single week of the young season so far. And if nothing else, I want to at least give some benefit of the doubt that this offense is going to get installed and everyone's going to kind of settle into their respective roles and look far more capable and competent. But really what we're seeing with Saquon Barkley, the usage is there. You're getting everything that you want on that front, but the explosives aren't coming up yet. And usually that either has to do with a guy who doesn't have his legs under him and he can't pull away or break tackles as readily as he once could, or an offense that's not clicking on all cylinders. And both of those things, to Steve's point, are typically solved by the bye week. So that Eagles bye can't get here fast enough for Saquon managers.
Yeah, it certainly can't one bit. And let's go ahead and round it out here with our 12th and final player. It's Garrett Wilson. And I actually had Garrett Wilson outside my top 15. I think I'm a little worried that, hey, what happens if Justin Fields gets hurt again? What happens if, the offense starts to look cruddy as a whole? And things were good on Monday, but who knows? It is the Jets. And to me, like the targets have been great. You can't complain about the targets one bit here. But I just worry that maybe the efficiency comes down a little bit. He has had 3 touchdowns so far this season. So, Steve, am I crazy right now to be doubting Garrett Wilson after just a sensational rise up rankings? He was another guy that a lot of people were taking in the 3rd, 4th round of draft sometimes, up right now, currently 13 spots from his preseason ECR.
Yeah, that's insane because we've seen what happens if Justin Fields gets hurt. Tyrod Taylor comes in and just peppers Garrett Wilson with targets. That's exactly what's going to happen. Like Garrett Wilson, I said it all offseason, and I think Eric rode with me on this one that Garrett Wilson's a monster. And when you were like, oh, Ohio State wide receivers, let's draft him. Like, I'd take Garrett Wilson over any Ohio State wide receiver in the league right now in terms of just talent alone. In terms of talent alone, this offense, the offensive play calling on the Jets is awful, just awful. And he is still an absolute unit out there. This man can catch anything. And we are not putting enough respect on this man's name for the fact that he may be the best acrobatic catch guy in the NFL right this second. He may be the best at catching bad passes in the NFL or tough to catch passes. You need someone to go tightrope the end zone and make some stupid good play. It's Garrett Wilson. He is the best jump ball guy in the NFL right now.
Eric, this is tough for me because Garrett Wilson was another player that I was still high on, I think, compared to consensus coming into the season, because like JSN, he was getting an absurd load of projected targets coming his way. Those targets have come his way so far this season. I just don't always love being attached to an 0-4 team. I like being my best fantasy players being attached to better teams. I've played this game with the frisky Jets time and time again. It doesn't burn me, but it hardly leads to top 12 upside, I feel like.
I was with you until you made your statement about it hardly leading to top 12 upside, right? These teams that are frequently trailing and having to throw a lot tend to support wide receivers, and the Jets are one of the most consolidated pass distribution teams in all of the NFL, right?
You're right.
The thing that's crazy for me is the arguments that each of you are making for and against Garrett Wilson, respectively, are the exact opposite arguments that you're making on the other side of the coin for JSN. Like, these circumstances are so incredibly similar when you have a guy who is an elite weapon, can be used in a variety of different ways, and is the passing game in their respective offense, tied to a signal caller, a passer that has his fair share of warts. Like, for me, the through line on both of them is opportunity and role. And for both these guys, it is otherworldly, right? Steve's point about Tyrod Taylor is really the one to underscore there. If it's not Justin Fields, it actually might be in Garrett Wilson's favor, because they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more. And Tyrod Taylor knows where his bread is buttered. So certainly with Steve over the course of the offseason, with him here now, right? I've got Wilson as my wide receiver 4.
Okay. All right. Let's get some honorable mentions here. We had Josh Jacobs come in at 13, Jamar Chase at 14, Omarion Hampton at 15, Travis Etienne at 16, Quinshon Judkins at 17, Ashton Genty at 18, CeeDee Lamb at 19, and Nico Collins at 20. Gentlemen, I'd like to give each of you a case to make why one of these players that got left out of the top 12 in our consensus rankings should have been in it. Eric, I'll start with you.
Apparently, I'm a bit more willing to take risks in this conversation, because I think it is deplorable that CeeDee Lamb was not part of this dialogue. The reporting out of Dallas is that he is expected to miss essentially one more game, right? So we'll be without him week 5, and we'll be potentially seeing him ramp back up for week number 6. Obviously, high ankle sprains, or ankle sprains in general, are scary, but he steps right back into what is one of the most dynamic passing offenses in all of the NFL. Dak Prescott, your current passing leader in the NFL, if you were riding with us over the course of the offseason, that was one of the features that I was happy to plant my flag on. A defense that cannot stop a nosebleed. CeeDee Lamb is obviously an elite talent, and he walks back into one of the best circumstances as soon as potentially a week or 2 from now. So if anyone out there is worried about those ankle sprains, go out and float a medium level low ball offer and see if you can't get some CeeDee Lamb.
Steve, anyone that was left out of our top 12 consensus rankings that you can make the case for?
Yeah, and I don't like the implication that I'm averse to risk, because I had Jamar Chase pretty high in my rankings for the rest of the season. Now, I know how it looks. But something in my gut right now tells me, and maybe it's just me being naive, but I think the Bengals are going to make a move, and I think it's going to be a sexy one. I think we're going to be eating some dubs in Cincinnati, and I think Jameis Winston's coming into town, and I think Jamar Chase has a real shot. If that happens, Jamar Chase is the wide receiver 2 rest of the season.
What if it doesn't, though?
Someone's coming in. They're not going to stick with Jake Browning. They just can't. Like, they'll.
It could get better, because I think you're on to something with the fact of ranking Chase higher than myself and Eric did. But I don't think it's because a life preserver quarterback's coming in. I think it's because Jake Browning played 2 of the toughest defenses in their barn in Minnesota and Denver. I think things improve as soon as this week when they get back to Cincinnati. So I'm with you there.
I anticipate a new quarterback in Cincinnati this week.
Okay.
This week.
There will be someone new. There will be someone new in that building this week.
I think you're a little aggressive on that. But for me, the only player that we did not put inside the top 12 that I did have inside my top 12 was Omarion Hampton. I think this is a guy right now that should be definitely considered that. I mean, he's seeing 80% of the snaps or more right now in what looks like a really good Chargers offense. They did just lose a couple tackles as well, so I think they'll need to continue to ground and pound here with Hampton. And, they got Hassan Haskins. They have a couple of other guys back there, but really no one is on the level of Omarion Hampton. We're starting to see that explosiveness there as well. So I think
fall off of Kamani Vidal.
Sure.
That's tough to hear. Remember last offseason's darling.
Yeah, not mine. Never mind, darling. So it was never Kamani Vidal season. But guys, great exercise here. I really enjoyed doing this fantasy football draft do-over. Let's go ahead, before we get to some people's questions, let's get to some in the scope targets for waivers a week early.
I have the targets in my sights.
Requesting permission to engage.
In the scope.
All right, it's in the scope. It's our waivers a week early targets. We're going to tell you our favorite week 5 stashes who will be week 6 main waiver wire targets under 25% rostered on ESPN. Shout out to Eric last week with the big pull of Woody Marks. Got ahead of it once again. So, Eric, I will give you the honor since you are batting hot right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to apply a lot of the same formula, looking for some of these young running backs who are seeing their time on the field start to tick ever so higher. And for me, that's Brashard Smith there for the Kansas City Chiefs, currently in the single-digit ownership in terms of how frequently he's rostered across the variety of platforms. And all of a sudden, you look back through his game logs, and his snaps are walking up week over week over week. Last week, got all the way up to 19 snaps and 26% share. This is an inverse correlation with the amount of time that Isaiah Pacheco is seeing on the field. But moreover, what's particularly interesting is Brashard Smith is certainly capable as a pass catcher, which is a somewhat unique skill set for him in that backfield. He's proving to be more and more capable in pass protection, which is always the bar that these rookies have to clear. But also last week, we're seeing Andy Reid is scheming plays up to get the ball into his hand, right? And Andy Reid's not a play caller that is flippant about who and how he distributes that ball. So I think there's enough smoke on the horizon that Brashard Smith could be seeing potentially more than a third of the opportunity in this backfield as soon as this or the following week. And before long, I think he's got the talent to win out and really push Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco to the back seat in the Kansas City offense.
Yeah, Brashard Smith was actually someone I was considering for my in the scope target. And then we've had some action happen on Monday night. So for me, it's Isaiah Davis, running back for the New York Jets, rostering just 0.3% of leagues. Braylon Allen was rolled out of last night's game after suffering an MCL sprain. But according to Dr. Deepak Chona, he is, quote, going for a second opinion, which implies possible surgery for an MCL tear. Best case scenario, no surgery. We got Braylon Allen back in 4 to 6 weeks. This leaves 2024 fifth rounder out of South Dakota State, Isaiah Davis, as the Jets running back too. So with Breece Hall taking just about 57% of the snaps this season, that leaves right around a 40% snap share for Isaiah Davis to potentially take over as a whole. And while I don't expect him to get that same goal line work that we're seeing Braylon Allen get, maybe he takes over more of this pass catching role that Breece has had such a stranglehold on early this season. Last year in games where Davis had at least 40% of snaps, he averaged 9.7 fantasy points and 6.8 yards per carry and a 75% catch rate. The Jets, in my opinion, we guys talked about it earlier, which I thought was one of the strongest cases for Garrett Wilson, is it's Breece Hall, it's Garrett Wilson, it's Justin Fields' legs, and it's nothing else. Maybe, just maybe, they can unlock something here with Davis. Maybe he can be a difference maker, not only for the Jets for the rest of the season, but for your fantasy teams as well. Steve, you also have a running back who slowly starting to climb up the pecking order.
Yeah, and it's been a long time coming for dynasty managers, but it's really coming on this season. Kendre Miller, he looked, I hate to say this out loud, and it kind of hurts my heart a little bit to say it, but he looked better than Alvin Kamara this week. And he's kind of looks better. He kind of looks better than Alvin Kamara on this season. And that's really sad to say. And I don't think Kamara's long for New Orleans. Personally, I don't think Kamara survives the trade deadline this year. That contract, it's easy to move. There's plenty of running back needy teams out there. You look at the Commanders, the Chiefs. There's teams that could use a running back. And Kendre Miller will be the beneficiary when Kamara's gone. But I anticipate this moving much closer to a 50-50 split because Miller just looks better. He looks more explosive. It's very strange to see Kamara become Mark Ingram and Kendre Miller become Alvin Kamara.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I mean, with the opportunity, you're right. I mean,
Kamara's he's slightly slower than we're used to seeing him. He's still an elite balance guy, and maybe he's just checked out, right? Maybe he's like, this team is no good. They're not throwing to me. Then, if you're not throwing to Kamara, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why have him?
Yeah,
So I think Kendre Miller is a much better option for this team going forward.
I've always thought he was a bunch like, kind of a jack, but like opportunity means everything in fantasy. And if he's going to get it at some point more this season, I think he's worth a stash. So guys, I really like the stash candidates you brought up today. Let's get you a couple of fantasy football questions from the chat, starting with Rachel here. Jerry Jeudy, give up on him or reevaluate with Tillman and the QB change? Eric, help our friend out here. Rachel, please.
Yeah, I think he's a hold at minimum, right? He was someone whose name I was hovering over the drop button heading into week 4 last week. But in light of the circumstance change, I think it would be wise to just stand pat and see how it shakes out, right? There's one less mouth to feed. We don't know if Dylan Gabriel's going to have eyes for Tillman or the tight ends or Isaiah Bond to the same extent that Joe Flacco did. So I think you would at least be best served to see how 1 week of this experiment goes before making any moves.
Chivalry King asking here, should I trade Rashee Rice for Kenneth Walker? I'm 1-3 right now, and I have to win this week. Josh Jacobs is on bye. So this week's starting lineup is Justin Fields, Chase Brown, Breece Hall, Jefferson, Marvin Harrison Jr., TJ Hawkinson, and Chris Godwin. Steve, that sounds like a lineup to me that could certainly use someone like Kenneth Walker in it.
It could. It just, you're going to hate yourself later. So the problem is you absolutely have to win now, right? Like if you're kind of out of time. If you've watched the show, I would have told you 2 weeks ago to trade Chase Brown. And I told you last week to trade Chase. See if you can trade Chase Brown rather than Rashee Rice. See if you can make that happen. See if you can't.
You're not going to get anything to help your team by trading Chase Brown, though. That's the issue.
Getting Chase Brown off your team will help your team because you can go get Kenneth Walker for Chase Brown, like right now.
You cannot get Kenneth Walker for Chase Brown, and I don't want that deal.
Pull up the bench that he has, like the other guys.
Jefferson, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, it's just a starting lineup. That's starting lineup. That's starting.
See if you can't package Godwin and Brown for Walker at this point. But if you trade Rashee Rice right now, you're just going to hate yourself later. But I think it's a win now move, but your team's not good enough to really go all in on this week. And Rashee Rice is going to be significantly better in the long term.
I'm okay with the moves, Eric, just because of the fact, there might be a couple down games for Rashee Rice when he comes back, right? Like he might not be 100% healthy. He hasn't touched the field, at least in live game action in the regular season since his injury last season. So I don't hate this move at all from Chivalry, actually. I would consider this if I'm him.
I would not consider this move, but for what sound like different reasons. I'm less concerned about Rashee Rice's ramp up. I think he's already making his way back into the facility. I think he'll be ready to go when his suspension is over. I'm more concerned about going out and acquiring Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is one of the biggest icons of fool's gold in all of fantasy in my mind. This guy is barely on the field for 40% of snaps. Sure, he looks better than Charbonnet on some runs, and the majority of his runs, he's finding a way to lose yardage, right? So I think your sense of going out and trying to acquire some running back help is the right one. I don't want to go out and acquire Kenneth Walker. Exposing my own biases, I think you're better served just riding out with Chase Brown and Breece Hall this week, knowing that there are brighter days ahead when you get Rashee Rice. 1-4 is not a death sentence. And I don't think with the rest of this starting lineup, you're necessarily doomed just because you're a little thin at the running back position.
Here's Joshua asking, should I trade Dave Montgomery for DK Metcalf?
Yes.
If you're good at running back, yes. I would absolutely do this. Yeah. Eric, yeah?
Yeah, I'll take the DK side.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I'd like to see the target volume go up a little bit for DK Metcalf. I just don't think the Steelers have been in a ton of game scripts outside of that week 1 game where they've had to throw a ton. And then it was kind of almost a little too late against the Seahawks. Once they got down, there just wasn't enough time on the clock. So yeah, I would absolutely consider that, Josh. It's a really fair trade. And Dave Montgomery is going to have games just like he did last week where, it's pretty bust. There's going to be some boom in there too, but DK definitely the steadier producer for sure. And Ben in the chat saying, I really hope Dennis Allen watched Kendre Miller on Sunday. Yeah, he was in the doghouse for about 2-3 seasons and finally made his way out, it seems like. So.
I also love how Seth called Kendre Miller. He's like, I thought he was just a jag, and then he's like Isaiah Davis.
I mean,
was not like his guy to pick up.
I mean, yeah, but we've seen Kendre Miller. Like, I've
Have
seen.
we? Because he got
Have
put in
we?
like jail for no
Yeah.
reason.
I feel like this is the first time we've seen Kendre Miller.
I mean, I feel like I watched a decent amount of him at TCU during that season, just because they were always on during the playoffs and stuff. And like, my issues, I don't know. Isaiah Davis is more of a question mark. Like, I ain't watching South Dakota State games. I'm sorry about it. Sometimes, they'll play in the non-con, they'll jump up to FBS.
Seth's the classic, like, the mystery box could, like a boat.
Yes,
The mystery box could be
yes.
anything. It could even be a boat. Like,
yeah, exactly. Honestly, that's it's kind of how I feel. So, guys, great stuff on the fantasy football advice tonight. Let's go ahead and change gears to the betting streets with Between Bets coming your way.
Between bets. Between bets.
It's Between Bets. It's our best bets for week 5 of the NFL season. We've got everything from ATS, total, money line, player props, and of course, some anytime TD picks coming your way. But gentlemen, first, let's look back at how week 4 ended for you. For me, the bad beat started on Saturday. I was, just one leg away from hitting my college football parlay of the week. And then I used quarterback with time expiring, runs 40 yards back, takes a safety. We don't get the cover there. I continued on Sunday to me. I just had 3 player props in addition to a couple touchdown calls. I got 2 of my touchdown calls wrong with 2 of the wrong Chargers wide receivers. I did get Ashton Genty into the end zone. That paid out right around even money for me. And then I was also on Genty for his receptions. He hit every prop but that, I think, on Sunday. So that was a bummer. Took the wrong Texans running back, took Nick Chubb over 51.5 rushing yards. He got it, and then that got called back. So he did not get that. And then I was 1 reception short on Rome Odunze. So, so close for me. But, Steve, it was not a dry weekend for you up there in Boston.
Yeah, I got 7 times my money invested back this weekend.
Great ROI.
I went 10 for 11, I believe, on my bets this weekend. It was a hot one. I was on a heater, and a lot of it came from over-unders. I bet a lot of over-unders like this week, and I just bet on offense, like bet big, and then I hit a 3-touchdown parlay on the Monday Night Football game, which was really, really big. Thank you, Garrett Wilson, for getting in that second touchdown that, one was ruled incomplete, but we know it was a touchdown. It was a really cool week. I love betting the over-unders in games. It just makes it more fun, and I will never bet unders. I will only put money down on overs.
I actually kind of like the unders. It kind of gives me like a
baseball. No, because I'm rooting against the game at that point. You know what I mean?
But yeah, but I enjoy betting the unders of totals just because it makes me feel like I'm watching baseball or something. I can be a little more relaxed. I don't have to always ask for points. But Eric, for you also had a really great week in the spread, money line, and total markets.
Yeah, the beat goes on that front. Another 4 for 4 week with regard to that, moving close to plus 8.5 units on the season already in that particular market. And then, as I'm one to do, gave a lot of it back in the props market. Missed Matthew Golden by a yard, missed Ladd McConkey by more than a yard. Went 1 for 2 on my touchdown calls. Would have been a perfect 2 for 2. But Harold Fannin decided to stop running his route before he was before the target arrived there. So that was a bit of a bad beat. But on the whole, pushing better than 5 units up on the season.
Awesome. Love to hear it. I'm seeing some more questions coming in the chat. We'll get to those in just a little bit. But first, let's get to our picks for week 5. And Eric, we'll start with you right here in the ATS market.
Yeah, looking to stay hot here, going with Tampa Bay getting 3.5 points traveling on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. Best price I could find on that was -107 over at BetRivers. Some of this is just simple arithmetic. Look through 4 weeks and find me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game that didn't come down to essentially the last drive, if not the last possession. They are, even regardless of insane deficits that they dig themselves at the onset of the game. able to pull out that Baker magic and find their way back into games. And moreover, I think this matchup is pretty favorable for a close contest. We were talking about what we saw from the Seattle offense last week at Arizona. I think a lot of that has to do with Arizona being a pretty stout run defense, as is Tampa Bay. So I think we're going to see Seattle a little bit diluted in terms of their potency on offense. And I think that Tampa Bay getting the 3.5 should be a easy ticket to cash.
Steve, you've had a fun ride this year. You've bet a lot of nasty dogs, right? You've bet a lot of close your eyes specials, including last week you were on the Saints, and it came through for you. But here this week, you're actually going the opposite direction, where you're actually betting a road favorite. What do you have for us?
Yeah, this one's going to get bigger as it goes on. I'm going to take the Texans -2.5 at the Ravens. This spread is going to grow. If you don't get on it now, this thing's going to be 4.5, 5, 5.5, maybe 6 by the time the game rolls around, because there's no one playing for Baltimore. Like, everyone's out. Lamar Jackson out. Roquan Smith out. Madubuike out. Like, it's Nate Wiggins out. Jair Alexander in. Like, not good. Like, it's worrisome. So at this point, I don't mean to like dog on Jair Alexander, sorry, but like at this point, if the Texans don't beat the spread, like that's a huge problem, right? Then we have to have a real conversation about the Houston Texans at that point. And I'm sorry, Eric, I know this is your team, but I'm going to send some positive vibes their way, and if I can carry over my winning ways to them, maybe I can some. They looked pretty good though, right? Like they took care of business against the Titans. Looked like they figured some stuff out. Woody Marks has opened that offense up in a way that looks real nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they were missing, right? They were just missing a running back that they were like, hey, listen, like we need to be able to get this in motion, right? Nick Chubb, I am so sad to say the wheels have kind of come off on this already, and it's fine. It's whatever. But this seems like a slam dunk, right? Like none of us are picking the Ravens +2.5, right?
No, I don't think so. I think you're on the right side of this. I do like what we saw out of the Texans last week, and with the injury report looking like a dang CVS receipt right now for Baltimore, I think this is a good play from you once again here. And Eric, you're actually staying in this game in the totals market, though.
I am. And before I shift over to the totals market, if you are in DraftKings state, you can get this at a -1.5 for the Texans.
Wow.
So that looks like a pretty hot ticket to go get filed away if you agree with Steve as I do. Moving over to the totals side, prior to the Lamar Jackson news, I had the Houston Texans and Baltimore Ravens going over 43.5 and going over it by a pretty comfortable margin, to the point where I'm comfortable sticking with that call. If you want to hedge a little bit, you can actually get it over 42.5 at DraftKings. That might be a bit of a heady play, but overall, really what I'm trying to do here is take advantage of two arrows pointing in a similar direction. One is what Steve mentioned. This Texans offense is an entirely different version of itself with a capable running game, never mind a dynamic running game, which is what Woody Marks has brought to this backfield and really balanced out what the Texans are trying to do on offense. But also, as was the early part of 2024, the early part of 2025 finds a Baltimore Ravens defense that is an absolute dumpster fire. I mean, a wet blanket, a can't stop a nosebleed, cheap tent, whatever analogy you want to draw. The Ravens are just getting completely steamrolled out there. So whether it is the Texans doing the majority of the heavy lifting en route to this total, whether it is the Texans doing the needful and Derrick Henry keeping up his time-honored tradition of just completely dump trucking this team, I think there are a few different ways that you can get to 43.5 points. So I'm happy to stick with you over here.
Was it Bradley Beal who said, like, after a game, he's like, we couldn't guard a parked car? That's always been my favorite saying of all time. So
can't stop a nosebleed. They're all out there, and they all apply to the 2025 Ravens defense.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Steve, you're also expecting some potential points here in the city of brotherly love, where I just watched National Treasure again last night, where things certainly got heated there in that one for Nick Cage and the boys. So you're expecting some more fireworks here 20 plus years later for Jalen Hurts and company.
I'm glad you rewatched that movie, especially since you're repping that division next season.
Yes,
Yeah, I got Denver against Philadelphia going over 43.5 points. That seems like a really low total for two teams that are combined averaging over 43.5 points per game. I don't know why it's so low. I kind of am a little worried as to
Mm,
why it is. Maybe there's something I don't know. But everyone seems healthy. I assume AJ Brown's going to get a healthy dose of targets this week. So I would expect to see another like big game out of him in the passing game in general. Here's the thing, and why I'm not panicking on the Eagles in general here is that this cannot continue. What's happening is offensive players are getting really mad and they're getting disgruntled. They're going to want to leave. They can't have that in Philadelphia. That will not stand. This offense is going to pick it up. And the Denver defense is not as good as I expected it to be.
true.
I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if it's a scheme issue or if players just kind of thought their, what didn't stink. But like, I expect 43.5 points. That's pretty low. So I'm pretty comfortable taking
Mhm.
the over here. I mean, 43.5, that's 22 points apiece. So I'm pretty comfortable taking the over here.
And Eric, speaking of some close your eyes specials, you're on one here on the money line overseas. What do you have for us?
Yeah, looking at to take advantage of the Minnesota Vikings maintaining their Euro trip and I guess traveling to the Cleveland Browns there for the early game on Sunday morning. I like the Browns money line over here. Plus 170 is a very appealing price tag. This Browns defense is very much so legit. They can contend and keep their team in contention with seemingly anybody out there, as long as the offense isn't getting in their way. We now have Dylan Gabriel coming in. I think we're going to see much more of a ground and pound clock management type of offensive system for this week 5 tilt. And also, I am very much so banking and wagering on Carson Wentz doing bad things when he is put under pressure and potentially having a turnover or two, which obviously will keep this game closer and might even lead to some defensive points for the Browns.
Are you
Okay.
not worried at all about Brian Flores scheming up some of the cruelest blitz packages of all time on this poor rookie who stands at about my height?
Of course, I'm worried, but I also think that a great way to counter that is a very effective ground game. And I think that that is something the Browns can say pretty confidently that they have.
All right, fair
Okay.
enough. And
I can do that.
Steve, you are also on a money line here, but you're actually taking a favorite down there in the great city of Charlotte.
Yeah, listen, a wise man once told me you can never go broke taking a profit. And in my lifetime, that seems to have worked out. And in my bets this weekend, that's what I did. I just said, hey, you know what? I'm not trying to get plus money. I want sure money. And one thing I'm pretty sure about is that the Carolina Panthers suck. And that is what I'm betting on. And I will take the Miami Dolphins straight up to beat the Carolina Panthers. I don't care how bad the Dolphins defense is. I know how bad the Panthers defense is. And I know how bad the Panthers defense is because I just watched them get boat raced by the New England Patriots, who are not good.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say the one thing here is that the Panthers did look like a different team at home, right? That was kind of their one bow up game against the Falcons. So maybe we see that here again. And definitely a lot of adjustments the Dolphins will have to do on their offensive game plan without the services of Tyreek Hill moving forward. But
remember, sometimes, and I warned that this can happen, right? Sometimes teams rally. Now, I know Tyreek wasn't the most loved guy, so maybe it won't happen and they won't get like this like rah-rah mentality, but they got to win. And sometimes with a team like the Dolphins, especially with a coach like Mike McDaniel, he stayed cool, he stayed calm. Maybe the team, and Tyreek was really the biggest detractor of what Mike McDaniel was doing, essentially, like in terms of like the vibe.
Sure.
If that vibe is kind of catching on again, and all of a sudden they're looking going like, hey, wait a minute, this dude still got it. Like the Miami Dolphins, do you know they're the number 1 team on third down conversions? Like this offense is still legit.
I did not know
Number
that.
1.
Yeah,
They're converting at 55%. So this team moves the ball effectively. That Carolina Panthers defense is bad. I expect this to be not only just a win for the Dolphins, but a blowout.
Okay. All right. I'm seeing some more questions coming in, guys. We'll get to those at the end of the program. Want to get to a few more props here as we shift into the player markets. And I've got a trio for you starting at the top here. Give me my friend Omarion Hampton to go over his rushing attempts or yards line. The Chargers are back home against the Commies after dropping their first game of the season to the Giants. They also lost left tackle Joe Alt in the process. I think that means they have to lean more on Omarion Hampton this coming week and for the foreseeable future. Hampton has averaged 99 rushing yards the past 2 weeks, saw an 89% of the snaps last week without Najee in the lineup. Washington has actually kept their games rather low scoring this season, and therefore they've seen the fourth most RB carries per game at 24. BP projections are putting this line somewhere between 65 and 70. They've let Bijan and Josh Jacobs go over that line. The Commanders have. Also, Ashton Genty was not far off that line. Rushing attempts should also come in around 16.5 BPs, telling us when this line gets official at books. So we've all seen those running backs go over this mark against this team as well. So give me Omarion Hampton over rushing yards or attempts. Again, I'll have my full card with the official plays in the IBT football family as we get closer. I'm also going to take a play on Javonte Williams here, and I'm also going to be doing the same thing. We'll see what the line is, whether it's over rushing attempts or over yards. Javonte has garnered 76.4% of the snaps this season. He outtouched Miles Sanders last week as well, 23-4 in that overtime thriller. And Dallas has to lean on him, I think, a little bit here. We got CeeDee Lamb down. It's really just Javonte Williams as the second best skill player on this team behind George Pickens. So Javonte currently averaging 15.8 carries per game, 78 yards per game as well on the ground. He'll be facing a Jets team that has seen the most carries per game this season to running backs, 26.7 and 108 rushing yards against opposing running backs as well. BP projecting this line 46.5 to 56.5. So if I can get something in there, I will gladly take it for Javonte Williams. And also round us out here with a receiving prop on Alec Iomanor, one of my favorite wide receiver prospects for the Tennessee Titans. Calvin Ridley was not at 100% last week. Alec Iomanor led the team in snaps. I'm expecting Calvin Ridley not to be at 100% again this weekend, and Alec to continue to lead them in snaps. The Stanford product currently leads the team in targets, receiving yards, and touchdowns, the only player to catch a touchdown from Cam Ward this season. And in a game where the Titans are probably trailing again against the Cardinals are averaging 14.5 receptions to opposing wide receivers this season, the second most. BP putting this line right around 33.5 again. He's hit this in the past 3 games. Give me a little Iomanor here in the player props market. And Eric, you also have a trio of player props that you're down on as well.
Yeah, going 3 deep in the props market. 2 of them are coming from the upcoming Thursday night game between San Francisco and the Rams of Los Angeles, and they are largely pointing to a similar exploit, that being both Blake Corum to go over 26.5 rushing yards and Brian Robinson Jr. going over 15.5 rushing yards. The thing to remember is that on these Thursday night games, you tend to see a little bit more of the backup running back than you otherwise might. And for both of these guys, these are players that are seeing their snaps trend in the right way. They're seeing their carries trend in the right way. In the case of Brian Robinson Jr., he surpassed this number in all 4 of his games this year. In the case of Blake Corum, he surpassed it in 2 out of the last 3. So moreover, we're looking at what could potentially be one-play paydays for guys like this, but also we're seeing a Thursday night environment that tends to see, again, a little bit more opportunity for these backup running backs on the short week. And then my third target, this is one like some of the ones that you brought up here, KaVontae Turpin. We are looking for a line to be posted. Last week, his line was 30.5 yards. He came right to that number. He finished right at 30 yards. So I would expect that it lands right around there. I would probably take this all the way up to 34.5 or even 35.5 yards. This has everything to do with 2 things. The game environment. I think that both Dallas and New York are going to do plenty of scoring, and this is going to be one of the highest game totals on the entire slate this week. But also KaVontae Turpin gets the turnstile matchup against Michael Carter II, a slot corner for the New York Jets that is currently allowed 123 receiving yards through 4 weeks. and is allowing almost 14 yards per reception. That is an absurd number for a slot corner. So go out and get you some Kevontae Turpin. Again, probably lands around 30, 31 and a half. I would take it nearing 35 to go over.
I love this because I was actually going to bet Turpin's over on the receiving yards last week. Didn't love the matchup though. I didn't love the matchup, so I stayed off it. So maybe the start time to get back invested with Turpin, who's just been a really fun player to watch there in Dallas, and with his home run hitting ability, he really just needs one play. So I would prefer definitely the receiving yards as opposed to the receptions, I think, here with Turpin. Steve, you also have a player prop. Kicking it old school for a change here.
Yeah, it's Matt Stafford going for over 240 passing yards. Like Eric said, these Thursday night games, they tend to be pretty rough on running backs. And one way to combat that coaches tend to do is they throw a little bit more. Matt Stafford's averaging about 280 yards passing this season. And it is a Thursday night game. It's a short rest week. And that is the hardest on the running backs. Of all the skill position players, the ones who that just hurts is the running back. And you just try to take a little bit off of them in these games, right? So I expect Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams to be extremely busy this week. And Tutu Atwell has shown that he can sneak behind a defense every now and then. So I wouldn't be terribly shocked to see this little more porous 49ers defense than we're used to seeing give up some big plays to one of the better wide receiving cores in the NFL right now.
Okay, let's go ahead, guys. Let's round it out with our touchdown call contest. Let's update the leaderboard here. Again, you can access the touchdown call contest. You can win yourself a Dynasty Dex plaque plus some IBT media swag by joining the IBT football family. You get access into our giveaways. You get access to the Discord, our full picks and predictions always uploaded there in the Discord and the TD contest. It's been a lot of fun over there. And currently on the board, we have Trav still leading the way with 8. Rob had a big week. He's up at 7 now. Steve and myself, we both had quite a bounce back. I got 3 touchdowns from Ashton Genty to move me up to 4. Tied with Steve and Jake Perry there, who each have 6. Eric now tied with Trash Sandwiches after Trash had a 3-touchdown week as well for 6th and 7th. Ben and James bringing up the rear here at 8 and 9. Then we have a couple people trying in just 1 touchdown. So still time to enter the TD contest, still time to get on the board. The link to that is in the episode description. And Eric, you got a little bit of work to do here, buddy. A little bit of work to do. Not a bad week last week by any means, but still some work to do here. And I'll start off with you first, my friend.
Yeah, not a bad week last week at all. Like I mentioned, a hair's breadth away from a 2-touchdown performance. So finding the end zone more over the last few weeks, I think will keep the trend alive. Starting with Breece Hall, I believe he is minus 105 to find his way into the end zone. I've already mentioned that I think that this Jets and Cowboys game is going to be an absolute track meet, but also the Cowboys in particular, they're allowing almost 58 yards on average receiving to running backs this year. So I think we're going to see plenty of targets going Breece Hall's way, and he has the opportunity to convert one of those catches into a touchdown. And obviously, he is a prominent feature in the ground game as well. So we could potentially be looking at a multi-score game for Breece Hall at minus 105. And then for my longer shot pick, moving over to some plus money with Chris Olave, an absolute target monster. 25% target share in all 4 games of the 2025 season. And he gets the absolute turnstile that is the Giant secondary, whether it's them trying to do the Dante Banks thing again or rotating through Andrew Phillips and Paulson Adebo. This is a unit of cornerbacks that has already allowed 5 receiving touchdowns. And I think we can see Chris Olave with the elite volume that he's seeing convert at least one of his catches into a score.
I've got 2 TD calls for you as well. First, give me Cam Scattaboo, minus 105 at Hard Rock Bet. The Saints have allowed 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 running backs over the past 2 weeks. Scattaboo has 14 attempts inside the 20-yard line. That's top 15 in the nation right now. Also, he is seeing just a ton of his team's carries inside the red zone as well. he feels like it's him or Jackson Dart who's going to sneak into the end zone in this one, in a game when the Giants should very much be in it. Scadaboo should be used frequently and often, especially without Tyrone Tracy in the mix. And I'll also likely be taking, this isn't official yet because I don't have a line for it yet, but as long as it's plus money, because we're supposed to take one plus money bet, one minus money one every week as well. I'm going Nico Collins. If he is in the plus money range here, Nico Collins has 2 receiving touchdowns so far this season, still getting the target volume there. It feels like it's really him. It's Woody Marks, and there's not much else on this offense. A little Dalton Schultz action here and there, but he will be facing the Ravens this weekend, as Steve previewed earlier, and everyone's banged up. Nate Wiggins, their talented young cornerback, he just got hurt this past weekend as well. And whether you look at it through a 2025 season lens, the Ravens have allowed the second most receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers with 6. Or if you just want to take it and slice it in the last 2 weeks, they've also allowed the second most receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers with 4. So give me a little Nico Collins action. Give me a little Cam Scadaboo. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you for your anytime touchdown calls for week 5.
Yeah, so these are early, always subject to change. So please join the Discord because you'll get our official picks usually day of in there that we finalize this. But we'll start with Teteroa McMillan. You know, I love Teteroa McMillan, and while I did say the Dolphins will boat race the Carolina Panthers, I did not say they'll shut them out. And someone needs to get into the end zone, and that Dolphin secondary is suspect at best. It's time that the rookie gets his first touchdown in the NFL. So I am anticipating this is the week that we see it. And then we're going to see Brock Bowers have a get-right game. I think he's starting to look a little bit healthier and a little bit healthier and a little bit healthier. And I just like, I think this is the week that we see it. And I think Ashton Genty doing what he did this past week is going to open up so much for Brock Bowers. It's not even going to be funny. I think we'll see it flip. I think Ashton Genty is going to let down a lot of people, and Brock Bowers is going to surprise a lot of people this week. So Brock Bowers, lock it in.
Okay, Brock Bowers for Steven. I like it. That's your second use of Brock Bowers, so hopefully you can get in there because
he better get in this time because he burned me the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get a couple questions before we get out of here, guys. First, Joshua Ortiz. Josh, you've been waiting super patiently, man. Thank you for that. How much fab is too much for Woody Marks? I have 85. I was thinking $25. I'd love to know how big of a league this is, Jason. Is this a 12-team league? If so, I don't think 25 is getting it done, Eric.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Even regardless of format 10, 12 scoring, right? However many you roster, I think that Woody Marks is probably closer to like a 40 to 50% guy in terms of what actually secures the bag, right? You can contextualize that based on how running back needy you are, right? If you have a multitude of holes in that position, I wouldn't mind unloading the clip on him. But I think if you're trying to thread the needle, it's probably like 44, 47% is a pretty safe target to get it done.
Yeah, completely agreed with you there. Steve, another question from Jason. Should I drop Cooper Kupp for a handcuff like Kendre Miller or Travis Hunter? What are your thoughts here for Jason?
Yeah, you got to drop Kupp for Kendre Miller. You got to. Kupp's not good. I hate to say it. And I'm just gonna keep it a buck with you. And that's the truth. And Kendre Miller seems like he is becoming a bigger focal point in the Saints offense. And like I said earlier in the show, I do anticipate Alvin Kamara being moved at some point this season. Make sure it's for Kendre Miller and not Travis Hunter, because I don't know if the Jags are really sure what they want to do with him right now. So he's kind of bouncing back and forth, and he's not sticking anywhere, which is very concerning for the number 2 overall pick. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Kendre Miller, though.
If I'm doing it, I feel like I want Hunter, just for the lottery ticket. I know it's been weird usage, but he didn't play as much late in the game on defense. I don't know if that was just a precaution or what they're trying to do. Maybe they are trying to scheme him up a little bit.
He played less defensive snaps than offensive snaps this week. A week after they said, oh no, he's going to play less offensive snaps and more defensive snaps.
Yeah.
It seems like this feels, and I'm speculating. Okay. Sure. So take this with a grain of salt. This feels like a disconnect between the head coach and the general manager on this pick, where I I think if you hooked Liam Cohen to a lie detector test, he did not want Travis Hunter. He wanted to sit tight and go get somebody else because he's not using Travis Hunter all that creatively.
I at least was encouraged that Hunter's targets went up a little bit last week, Eric. He went back from 2 to 5. So I just have a feeling that if they're ever going to get this passing game right, it's going to center around Travis Hunter getting more involved. And he had a couple of really nice catches this past week as well. So I did like seeing a little bit from him. And if he's out there on the waiver wires, I'd be happy to add him, really.
I mean, honestly, I'd be happy to add both of these guys, right? So I would be looking through your roster and seeing if you have a second kicker or defense or unnecessary second quarterback, right? Whatever it might be. I'd be interested in picking both these guys up, assuming that you only have Kupp to drop. Kendre Miller is clearly the bigger lottery ticket, right? Not only do I agree with Steve that I think on merit he will chip away at this workload and get closer to even distribution, but also fast forward to a world where old running back Alvin Kamara gets hurt and Kendre Miller is sitting out there. Would you drop Cooper Kupp to go get him? Absolutely. Right. So you're trying to be proactive with some of these additions and you have the added benefit of Kendre Miller seemingly earning more workload in the Saints backfield.
What tight end should I start this week or rest of season from Jason as well? Njoku, Mason Taylor, Rapper, Waller, Schultz, Ingram, or Theo Johnson. For me, I would still prefer Njoku, but if you're looking for a streamer, I wouldn't hate going with either Schultz or Theo Johnson. Any disagreement from you guys?
Yes. Darren Waller looked really good in that game.
Correct.
He looked really good in that game, and Tyreek Hill's gone.
Yeah, I mean,
someone's gonna pick it up, and let's not forget when Tyreek Hill went down, Jonnu Smith was a monster.
Yeah,
is Rapper Waller the correct answer here, Eric? You think?
I think he is, not because I think it's necessarily likely that he repeats this type of performance on a week in and week out basis. But in terms of who has the highest chance to do that, the highest upside, it's clearly Rapper Waller, right? And the fact that you have a list of 17 guys that are all essentially the same dude is really the answer here, right? Go take a shot on Darren Waller. Upside is he's some version of Jonnu Smith from last year, and you're very happy you did. And if it doesn't work out, go get Mason Taylor or go get Theo Johnson or go get Evan Ingram or whoever the next guy is available on waivers.
With Waller, he seems to be the end zone target.
Sure.
Yeah. Also, I will say someone posted his song today. One of his songs on Twitter. Ain't bad.
Oh, Jesus.
Ain't bad actually.
It's
kind of wavy. It's kind of wavy, like little Post Malone stuff. Loved it. Jacob here, half point PPR, 2 flex. Can be a tight end. Let's see. He's got Drake May, Genty, Tony Pollard, Abuka, JSN, Jawan Johnson, Ridley, Bill, JCM. Bench, Caleb, Adunze, Downs, Tootin, Golden,
Adunze.
Well, I bye week. So obviously you're starting Genty, you're starting Pollard, you're starting Abuka and JSN. So it really,
I'm confused as to who.
So I guess it's Ridley, Bill, Downs, Tootin, Golden are kind of the guys he could put in there.
No, Golden's on a bye.
Oh, Golden's on bye too. So
Downs has to go in for Ridley.
Yeah, I think it's Bill and Downs, right?
Bill, I guess. Yeah. Ridley's. Sure. We're off the radio at this point, right?
Let's keep it clean.
He's trash. Like, you know what? And that's just coming from a place of someone who drafted Calvin Ridley.
I think he's hurt.
And is staring at him on my bench. And I don't know what to do with them. Like, I actually want to submit a question and be like, do I just drop him? Him and Pacheco both.
Yeah.
Drop Pacheco.
And speaking of Pacheco, go ahead, Eric.
I think you can make a case for Ridley. I do not want to make that case in the context where I'm starting Pollard. That is far too much exposure to the Titans offense.
Yeah, true.
Ridley has been, to honor one of our listeners from last week, he's been cheeks. He's not good.
Yeah, apparently people didn't like me saying cheeks, by the way, too. I got a little,
I like it.
Really?
Little shade, yeah.
No, I think that's appropriate.
They also said they don't like, this was on the Fantasy Pro side of things, but they also said they don't like me calling Jane Daniels JD Honey. I was like, okay.
I don't like that either. That's
JD
odd.
Honey?
Yeah.
That's
You
a
can't
good.
make up a nickname for someone.
Yeah, it's entirely fabricated.
I mean, but they're my nicknames. I can call people whatever
No,
I
you
want.
can't. That's not how it works.
If it's a good nickname, stick
Yeah,
to
JD
Cheeks.
Honey. Yeah,
JD
Cheeks
Honey,
is
JD
good.
Honey
JD
is
Honey.
good. Yeah, everyone loves a little JD Honey. You guys never sipped a little JD Honey back in the day?
I don't know what on earth you're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about Jack Daniels honey. It
Yeah,
just clicked.
Jack Daniel's Honey. That's what we used to call it, JD Honey growing up.
This changes my position a little bit.
Yeah,
but I still think
yeah.
this
No, hold strong.
this should be
It's
the
still
last
not
time
good.
that those words come out of
JD
your
Honey.
mouth.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Jacob
Yeah,
asking
not any better.
asking here, Marks, Pacheco, Corum, Kendre Miller, Slayton, Doubs, Malik Washington, Bond, Mims, Waller, Theo Johnson, Jackson Dart, all in the waivers. Going for Marks and Slayton. He has the waiver 12 priority in his league, so backup is Kendre Miller. Yeah, I think you're going to probably need that because Marks is not going to get you 12 unless your league is asleep at the wheel. So I also wouldn't hate Malik Washington, adding him to that list too. I wouldn't hate
Go back to the list. So I can see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, because Malik Washington, you could probably start this week, honestly, if you need to, or Slayton over this. The same guy who
You don't like Dobbs? I like Romeo Dobbs.
he's on bye. He needs a play this week. This is the same gentleman who's going to
Does
run
he?
out Calvin Ridley. Yeah, it's the same guy who's running out Calvin
All right.
Ridley.
All right.
So-
Yeah.
Seeing these as they come up.
Yeah,
I don't hate.
I like Malik Washington. Honestly, I like him a lot.
I don't love
We
it.
were talking about him a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, Steve. I thought he and now he's got the opportunity. So
The only name
like
that we
Waller.
haven't mentioned here is Isaiah Bond for me. Another emerging young rookie who, apart from some off the field fiascos, was probably going to be like a 3rd or 4th round draft selection in an offense that is now down a wide receiver. So it's going to be kind of slim pickings, honestly. Like with the 12th waiver priority, I would just put all of them in the order that you want to get them and see which one makes it
and to
through.
see what happens.
And then text your commissioner and tell him to move over to Fab next year.
For real.
Here's a question from first Jason asking, is Bond, Malik Washington, and Slayton? I think they're all worth the stash if your league is deep enough. Jason, seems like you're playing in a bit more of a shallower league, so I don't know if I'm necessarily running for any of these guys. But I would still
I would rank them that way though. That's the order I'd have them in.
Oh, really?
I'd move Slayton up.
I'd go Washington, Slayton, Bond.
I'd go
Oh,
Slayton,
wow.
Bond, Washington.
Slayton, Bond. Okay.
Literally 3
Yeah.
different.
Should I trade Cortland Sutton and Chase Brown for Omarion Hampton? My other wide receivers
Yes.
are Puka, Jawan Jennings, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, and Rashid Shaheed. My other RB is Javonte Williams. So needs a running back here. He's not that deep at receiver.
Jalen Waddle's going to get an uptick in work. Tyreek Hill's out.
Is he?
Yes.
Is he?
Yes.
I'm
Come
going to be
on.
honest.
What happened last time Tyreek Hill was out?
Jalen Waddle went out.
I want to get Omarion Hampton at whatever cost necessary. This leaves you thin, though. This leaves you really thin, man. At receiver that I feel uncomfortable. Like, can I get another receiver back? Can I throw in like a second quarterback or a tight end and maybe get like a wide receiver 3 back?
This is such a significant upgrade at running back. It's not even funny. At such a thin position, like you don't anticipate
Cortland Sutton is second best wide receiver, though.
I know, but you don't see Jalen Waddle taking a step up. DJ Moore maybe getting a little bit better as the season goes along. Jawan Jennings looks fine.
So this is the point. You're both correct. Omarion Hampton is a considerable upgrade to the running back position, but it does leave you pretty thin at wide receiver. Instead of projecting Jalen Waddle and DJ Moore to get better throughout the season on my roster, I would much rather have this manager go through those trenches and probably swap out either of those guys for Cortland Sutton, who is currently the second best receiver in his core, and also one of the steadiest and most reliable fantasy assets in the entire game.
I just don't know if he's going to be able to pull it off without including Sutton.
I to the nature of the question, I would do this for Sutton and Chase Brown. I wouldn't feel good about it. I would be following Seth's line of thinking about trying to get some depth back at the receiver.
What if you did? What if you
the
traded Sutton and Brown and then packaged Waddle and Moore and went and got a better wide receiver?
I mean, you're still super
Depth is
thin,
my
though.
bigger concern here.
Yeah.
Oh, depth isn't as important. You know what? My fantasy benches are essentially all like, if their starter gets hurt, they're the guy kind of things.
Derek here, would you trade away Kyron Williams and Pittman Jr. for Jay Jett as PPR? I would. I would, depending on who your running backs are. Like, honestly,
Why would you?
I just think Pittman Jr. a little bit is going to come back down to earth. I think we were all talking about Daniel Jones maybe turning back into a pumpkin. I think Pittman Jr. goes back with him. And Kyron Williams, to me, is like still a top 24 player, but we just ranked Justin Jefferson inside our top 10. So, I would consider this. Let us know who you have at running back here, if you can, Derek, in the next couple seconds. And, we can try to give some more advice for that, but I don't hate that.
Can I make a point for why? Because I didn't have Justin Jefferson in my top 15 redraft, right? And I caught flack for it today. So the reason why I don't is because when JJ McCarthy comes back, this is a guy who missed all of last season and didn't get to develop, and now has another injury that's slowing his development. This is going to be another painful process for Justin Jefferson. I just think that's too much to kind of go trade for. You're still paying a premium on the name versus the production. You're trading two guys who are outproducing Justin Jefferson for Justin Jefferson, when
RBs.
realistically, he's performed better with Carson Wentz than he did with JJ McCarthy.
I know, but it was one game and Steelers secondary's cheeks. Derek saying CMC, Genty, Judkins, and Kyron. Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that deal at all, but I understand if you don't. Eric, would you do that deal or no?
Probably not, but I'm still a depth guy, right? I think
Okay.
that depth is ultimately what wins you titles. So if you do it, you're taking a pretty aggressive stance on Jefferson, which is fine. But I would probably try to get some bench piece at the running back position back, just so you're not down to 3, right?
Sam lost neighbors and need more help at wide receiver. I have Benson, Chuba, Mason, Judkins, Kamara, and Pollard. Who should I trade for? AJ Brown. I mean, I don't really want to trade for AJ Brown. Like, is there another receiver
Pollard.
you can go buy low? I don't think Pollard's getting it done though. Like
Pollard and Kamara, maybe.
No,
I think Pollard and Kamara is an overpay for AJ Brown.
I'm not doing that.
I wouldn't be shocked if Pollard got it done for AJ Brown, just given how bumpy of a start it may be.
Mason,
the clear answer for me is Jordan Mason.
Yeah,
right.
Yep, I agree.
He very much so has that sell high profile that people will get excited for, and people aren't really accounting for how much work he lost to his teammate last weekend, or how much work he is soon to lose to Aaron Jones when he returns. So this is your opportunity to go get a top 15-ish.
If they won't
receiver.
take Mason or Pollard straight up, then just move on, because they're asking too much for AJ Brown.
Yeah. Darren here, AJ Brown, McBride, or Judkins and Hunter Henry, who wins?
Judkins and Hunter Henry.
Man, that's
and it's not because of Hunter Henry. It's Judkins.
I think you're getting the highest ranked player probably rest of the season, Judkins here, Darren, but I think still I almost like, and I don't want AJ Brown, but I almost think AJ McBride are more valuable, right, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I would err on that side. This is a perfectly fair deal, and I think it would boil down to just kind of the texture of your rosters, right? If you're trying to bolster,
are you comfortable rolling AJ Brown out as a starter?
I mean, I would prefer to get AJ Brown and then sell him personally. Like, that's kind of what I would like to do, but wait until he has a big week.
So you could start Judkins and Hunter Henry and not worry really all season. You're fine.
I mean, you know the game about Hunter Henry. We play it every year.
I do, and I've told you
the other shoe's going to drop,
and
maybe.
It's like it's your ex. Don't backslide.
Yeah.
But Quinshon Judkins is so good, and he has
also has a potential suspension coming. Let's not forget about that. So I probably would do. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably do that. AJ to round us out here. How bad did I mess up? I trade JSN and Emeka for Jahmyr and Nico. I don't think you messed up. I think that's fine. Like, I think the best player you gave away in a little bit in JSN, but I think you got the next two best players probably in Jahmyr and Nico still, even though it's been tough for Jahmyr lately. Like, I think it's a fine deal, Eric.
Help is on the way, dear.
And I would give this. I think it's like a pitch for a Posh. You know.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it feels kind of like trading for the sake of trading. I tend to agree with Steve that there are brighter days ahead for Jamar Chase, whether or not that means Jameis Winston or Kirk Cousins or just Browning kind of stabilizing a bit. So I would probably want to be on that side of the two, but realistically, like you're trading guys that are all just kind of closely clustered together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight on the In Between Fantasy Football podcast. If you've rode along with us, if we've helped you in your 2025 Fantasy Football League, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribing to the channel as well. We've got fantasy football and NFL betting content coming for you 52 weeks out of the year. We also have college football betting, NASCAR betting, PGA golf betting, entertainment betting, all to help you cash more and to enjoy the ride along the way. Also, be sure to check out inbetweenmedia.com for some dope written content and some more live events coming your way. We'll have some hopefully released by Black Friday. For Eric Romoff and Steven Lawson, I'm Seth Wilcock. Thanks for watching and keep it in between till next time, y'all.